Good evening. Welcome to City Council meeting of Hamlet tonight. This time I call the meeting to order. Council, you have before you, at this time we'll call on Reverend Dave Ammon from the Fellowship Methodist Church in Hamlet for our invocation. You come up to the podium up there, please, sir.
Can you hear me up here?
I'm sure.
Oh, Lord. Let's take a moment as we humble ourselves before God. God of justice and mercy, we thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our town. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with clarity and restraint. Lord, give us a spirit of service and remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need, and help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of all your people. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. In Christ's name, amen.
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 Thank you, Reverend Ammon. Council, you have before you at this time the agenda for tonight. What are your wishes?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend the agenda, if I may, to add a discussion of the proposed Jacksonville project from the Depot Board under new business. If it's suitable to council, we can make that the next item of business after the quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if we could, we have on the agenda to do a moment of silence. If we could do that, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine.
Concerning the Las Vegas incident we had.
Okay,
Some of the
at
recent
this time I'd ask everyone bow your heads. We'll have a moment of silence. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to.
One moment. Item 7A will be the Jacksonville hearing. Is that correct? Or
If that's suitable to council, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Martin.
I would like to ask that we remove item number 11 from the agenda for discussion of the Christmas vacation for city employees. This matter has already been discussed. It's already been passed. It's policy. I don't see any need to change it.
Okay, this really is not so much vacation, it is our holiday.
Well,
schedule.
holiday schedule, but that's what they got down here.
Have we set this holiday schedule for this year?
The holiday schedule was set in December of 2015 when council agreed that 3 days would always be given for city employees for Christmas. When Christmas falls on a Monday, it would be the Friday prior, then the Monday and Tuesday. But in July, there was a discussion that we would revisit the issue to see if some city buildings would be open on Friday and potentially bounce around days and alternate that some employees were to be working during the Christmas holidays.
Okay.
But Mayor, if you don't mind, before we do that,
Okay.
can we do the Jacksonville project under 7A, considering it's falling under the quasi-judicial hearing? Or do we need to make that maybe 8A or something that would
It
separate?
doesn't make any difference what number we put on it,
Does it?
does it, Ms. Morphus?
No, sir, it doesn't. As long as these items aren't within that quasi-judicial
No,
hearing, you're
absolutely
fine.
not.
Thanks,
I
sir.
just wanted to check. Thank you.
Mhm.
Do I need to make a motion to
Um,
remove this from the
Yes,
agenda?
if you would.
I make a motion that we remove the discussion for the vacation for city employees at Christmas time. Remove that from the agenda.
Okay, do I have a motion
I'll
on that?
second that motion.
Have a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say something. I think it got misconstrued as to what this was. This was not about taking days away.
No.
It was about trying to keep the city open instead of it being shut down for 3 days straight, and maybe having some of the employees split their days where some could be off Friday, Monday, Tuesday, some be off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that the city was only closed for 2 days as opposed to 3 days. because that's the end of the year, people are paying taxes, people still have to pay their water bills. And that was the idea, is that maybe we could split the days up. Some do it one way and some do it the other, as opposed to just, we're supposed to be here for the citizens and not be closed 3 days in a row. And I think there was some confusion on to what the whole thing was about.
With the motion in a second, we can go ahead and complete that, and then I do have a question concerning the fees. If you don't mind.
My only question to Mr. Morphus would be, before we go on for a vote on this, do we not set the official holidays, and therefore anybody that actually was working on that official holiday would be entitled to overtime pay? Am I correct? Holiday pay?
Yes, sir, that's my understanding, Mr. Blanton.
That's the only thing, I want to make sure that's clarified before we take it off.
I just like to add something to that. I just don't think in October is the time to discuss that. People's made plans. We're in the same ballpark with, well, not in the same ballpark, we're doing the same thing that the county and Rockingham's doing. If this is something that needs to be discussed, I would like to see us do it at our mid-year session in January and not now.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor of removing that item, say aye.
Aye.
Or, noes?
No.
Okay, I got one no.
I'd like to add, if we can, to go into closed session for a personnel issue.
We don't have any information on that. It's not on the agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Is the manager familiar with it? Or the
I'm
attorney?
not. No.
It was brought to his attention, but it was not a formal, he knows about it, but it was not brought to, a request to go, because I didn't.
No.
When was this brought up to him?
I'm not sure what we're referring to. Mr.
Well,
Lynn.
I can't,
No, you can't go into it, but
If council wishes to add it to the agenda, I would
it's up
defer
to
to the attorney.
council.
on that.
Do I have a motion to have a closed session tonight for personnel issue?
make a motion to go into closed session this
All
evening.
right. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Okay, opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 3-2 opposed. We won't have a closed session tonight. All right,
The fees on the, so with us being closed like that, are we waiving any fees or doing anything different for those days that we're closed, or?
The water payments won't be due on the 20th as they usually are. It's my understanding they're due the day after we reopen from the Christmas holiday, so that would be December 27th.
So no,
that
there's no
customers would
effect
have to pay.
Okay, good. I just wanted to check on that, because,
Right.
and we need to make sure people know that, so.
yeah.
So
it'd
we'll make
be
sure
due
that
on
that's
the
printed on their
20
water bill.
It'd be due on the 27th,
27th.
correct? December 27th.
I believe so, yes, Mr.
Okay.
Brewer.
Okay, let's go back now to item 7A, the Jacksonville concerns. I have a motion to put that on the agenda.
Make a
Oh,
motion.
yes. Yeah.
I got a motion, need a
Mr.
second?
Bowie, second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Okay, that'll be on there. Now, having gone through that, we have the agenda before us with the changes on it. What are your wishes at this time?
So move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Okay, thank you. Also, before you at this time, you have minutes from the September 12th open and closed session. What are your wishes at this time? Need a motion?
So move to approve, sorry.
It's all right. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion on those minutes? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed likewise. Thank you. At this time, we come to item 5, which is comments from attendees. If there's anyone here tonight who wishes to address the council on a matter that is not on the agenda for tonight, we would ask you this time to come forward. Okay, we'll close comments section. Next item of business under old business, item number 6, is discussion of ordinance number 2017-06, alcohol consumption on city-owned property. And I will let Mr. Morphus go with that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, and I'm actually going to hand out a revised ordinance for you. My apologies for not getting this to you sooner. That's not my practice, but it's the way it happened this time.
I believe we've got it.
Okay,
Is this
Ms.
different
Kirkley,
from what
did you Yeah, this is slightly updated
Oh, that's a
version.
change?
Yes, sir, because there had been some requested changes in the discussion last
Okay.
month. And so I made those changes. Just wanted to go over.
This is different from what you emailed us this
Okay, no,
afternoon.
that's exactly, if you've got redlining on it, then that's exactly what you.
Here, let me just get it just in case. I wanna make
what I
sure.
emailed the board this afternoon.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the feedback that we got when council discussed this last month was, you wanted two things. One was the application to come in 30 days before council considers it, and also some ability to approve an application in between council meetings. The idea being that someone didn't necessarily have to wait until the next meeting. And I thought about that, and if you look on the second page, there's some cumbersome language about the mayor being able to approve a permit. And I think because it's city property, the council can authorize the mayor to do that. I have some concern about council as a whole approving a permit outside of a outside of a regular session, because you're taking action as a board, which you really need to do during a meeting. But what I think you could do is you could either have the mayor approve it or reject it. And you could also have any one council member say, hey, wait, let's put that on for the next meeting. And that way you discuss the public's business in an open meeting. So that was the compromise that I thought would pass legal muster. Maybe it's too complicated for what y'all are trying to do. And if it is, we can take it back and try and clean it up. Yes, sir.
So this would just say the mayor could make the approvals on this.
Yes, sir.
All right, so obviously, I don't have an issue with this mayor, but you may have down the road, any mayor come in, and because he doesn't like Joe Blow, he says no, and he likes Jane and says yes.
And
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
not comfortable with that section.
Yeah.
Well, and let me just tell you, because I thought about that, what I thought about was, the way I've written the language is the mayor would have to notify the entire board that he or she's gonna make a decision to approve or deny within 3 days. And then that time period, anybody on council can say, I object, I want to have it as the next
Special
council meeting.
But that's
Um,
outside the public,
Well, that's right, Mr. Mayor, and that's why I think that just as city staff can issue administrative permits, I think the mayor could choose whether to allow alcohol on city property or not if council delegates that authority to the mayor. What I don't think you can have is the whole council voting on something outside of a public meeting. So it's a little more cumbersome than we want, but I was concerned
Could we
about.
not do it as just you have 30 days to
Yeah.
request the permit? Because
could.
then that's gonna be within our council meeting.
I'd be very comfortable taking out this whole subsection 3. The only reason it's in there is because there'd been a request to try and have a way that it could be approved outside of council meetings.
if that is, that means it was, for some
Actually-
reason, somebody hadn't planned ahead.
And we probably need to say 31 days.
Yeah, we do. We
31
need- There's
days.
no reason if people are gonna do something like that, they can't apply
Yep.
for it ahead of time.
And that's what I did, Mr. Bowie. I changed it from 5 business days to 30 days. And then council just considers it their next regular meeting.
Okay.
So I'm fine with section 3 being taken
That
out.
would clear him, it clears the future mayor, and it just,
That's right.
Okay.
I got a little problem with the unintentional discrimination that might happen when you're saying this person can and this person can't, and you don't have a blanket yes or no kind of situation. I mean, I understand that there are people that you probably don't want to do it, but don't they have the same right to?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, so it's a space that you're putting out to the public to rent. And I think it's obvious that the city couldn't deny somebody for reasons like, race or religion or national origin or things like that. But the flip side of that is that I think there has to be some discretion so that council, and that's why I've got the police chief weighs in, can say, we think this particular proposal is dangerous. Now, you're absolutely right, Mr. Lindsay. If there were a pattern of, one group of people's application keeps getting denied because it's dangerous, and other groups, no matter what, gets approved, that's absolutely a problem. I think my concern with taking away that flexibility is that there are people have different kinds of proposals. And I've seen in other towns, people have
Lollapaloozas versus a wedding.
well, I was going to say sort of wide open things where the alcohol is not really well controlled, and others where it's done very well. Now, I will tell you, in the town of Aberdeen, they allow, they have a policy, and it's actually a lot longer than this, and they allow alcohol. I mean, it's allowed at any event where X standards are met. And, they have a very popular facility that's run by the Parks Department. So you could do something like that as well. But again, then you don't have the ability to deny something, well, I guess what I'd say is that if it's being approved at the staff level, then there may be events that are happening that you don't even know about. So that's the trade-offs there.
Well, the other thing is we've got a multi-million-dollar old building that I believe you told me we had 70-odd rentals over 5 years, and this year we have only 3 so far, and we have 4 on the books, I believe is what you told me. And we get $100, I believe, Gail, isn't it $100 for rental?
$100 for 3 hours, $200 for 6 hours.
So there's not a lot of income in this whole thing, and the potential, it's an expensive building, the possibilities of something happening to it at a party or any time, truthfully, it's not a lot of income to the overall picture and the upkeep of that building. I know the Leak Wall building in Rockingham, they've quit renting it, period. They used to rent it for weddings and things, and
Yeah, they're having a lot of damage,
just, so, I mean,
This may be something we have to visit if we have that issue.
But we do have,
We got a lot of money in that
People,
building. for
aren't
just
people
to sit.
required to have insurance before
yes,
they
uh-huh.
Yeah.
do that?
So
But
they-
under B2 now, we do have it, it's been changed to a 30-day.
And, just
And I
to-
think it's good that the council can take consideration.
Just to address what he said, don't want to get in a situation where you have someone that's coming in different places and using that facility as a de facto club or something, where they may have,
ballroom.
where they may have a criminal record and they can't go out and open a business up and they just go roving from place to place. So you really have to have something like that. I like the fact that it's going to be at the council meeting. I don't like the fact that he's going to be letting us know, because inevitably then the paper's going to get, it's going to be shot information over there, and then before you know it, you just don't know what you're going to have. So if you have it where you're going to be on a meeting, I think that would be a good thing.
Don't you think it might need like 45 days notice to make sure you've got a meeting and give them a little adequate time?
Just so it gets in, just so
Yeah, I
we've
would
got a
say
meeting
just
before
long
they
as it's in
have the,
meeting time.
you're right, they could probably come in here tomorrow, and it might not be 30
Right.
days the next meeting or something, but that would be unusual.
And they wouldn't have any notice of
Well, let's do 45.
And that's, I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, to
Whatever
me, if
y'all
you're
wanna
planning,
do.
because really it's just for events. It's not for somebody to say, hey, let's throw a keg party down here at the depot next week and come
Yeah.
down here and get a permit. That's not what it's for. It's for, because there's been a lot of people approach different council members about wedding events and such, or us down there doing the farmers market day and stuff like that, where you may want to have certain vineyards in. It's not for people to go partying. It's just for us to bring events downtown, such as weddings,
So,
vineyards.
at this point, we're
45
Xing out section 3 entirely
If y'all
for
will
the
give
mayor.
me a motion on that.
I make a motion to approve this as is, taking out section 3 and adding a 45-day notice so that it can come to council for approval.
Okay, I've got a motion. Council, I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion?
Just is
If-
that good, Mr. Moore?
Yes, sir, that's sufficiently clear.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Okay, thank you. At this time, council, we have before us a quasi judicial hearing that Mr. David and Kim Lindsay have requested special use on a piece of property on Vance Street. At this time, I request that Mr. Lindsay be recused.
Yeah.
You
so
stay here.
Make a
You might-
motion.
Well, I mean, just until we do that, you
Yeah.
probably need to hold off where you are now.
Okay. The hearing is open at this time.
We got to vote to recuse him, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a motion to
I
recuse
got a
Mr.
motion.
Councilman Lindsay.
Yeah.
No,
Yes, sir.
no.
Second.
Got a second?
And I just add because there's,
Fine.
just was going
right.
step out.
That's all right, okay, that'd be
Right.
fine if you want to. All in favor, say aye.
Um,
Okay. Now, who all is going to speak tonight? Ms. Lindsay, Mr. Lindsay, are you gonna speak?
Is it all right
Okay, if
if
you-
I speak if needed, or?
All right, you need to be sworn in by the city clerk.
Yes, sir. So as long as you don't have any role in deliberating or voting, you can help present the application, sir.
Swear in the witnesses.
You'll raise your right hands. Place your left hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. At this time, we would ask for the application of the applicant's presentation. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to begin by answering the board criteria for the application review. Question number 1, the development will comply with all applicable conditions, standards, and regulations set forth in this ordinance. The property will be subject to building permits, fence regulations, and the signage ordinance. Any compliance issues will be verified through our city zoning compliance officer prior to beginning. The project will be overseen by a licensed contractor. The property will be insured prior to construction. Question number 2, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety. The property's closest neighbors are businesses and train tracks. When in use, the street could be closed to through traffic for additional safety. There are no health or safety concerns other than traffic associated with this project. Question number 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjacent or abutting properties. The adjacent and abutting properties are primarily businesses. The closest home in the area is 500 feet to the side of the stage and is buffered by heavy vegetation and railroad tracks. Question number 4, the project will be developed according to the plans submitted and be in harmony with the area. We have planned to use a split-face block and a shingled roof. We intend to create a rustic, inviting look that blends into the neighborhood. All additional construction will follow the same plan. Landscaping will be added to improve the street appearance.
Okay,
Your
does,
questions?
Council have any questions?
The only question I have is with that being next to the train tracks, or is there gonna be any kind of, it's really hard to block off everything, obviously, but is there gonna be traffic from, we've talked about this in the past, even with your private, personal property with people coming on from the tracks? Is there gonna be an issue with this,
We
or what are
plan-
we doing to prevent it?
As phase 2 of the project, we're looking at the project in 3 phases, and phase 1 is the stage. Phase 2 is fencing around the entire property.
Okay.
There's extremely dense vegetation on the railroad side. That doesn't mean you cannot come up, but we plan to
You have
add
to go
a
around.
fence with a barbed wire top, which is allowed by our fence ordinance in that area to prevent you from A, coming on when you're not invited, and B, stealing something we'd rather you not have.
Okay. Cause I mean, you know, that would be like a,
You know where I live.
One other question I have, you mentioned in the event of having some event, streets would be closed.
Could,
That's what I'm saying, could
Could.
be closed.
yes.
Now, you got the VA and the cleaners and Louis Gray's place right in there. They may not want the streets closed.
Currently, the only event we have scheduled is Seaboard Festival, October the 27th,
I realize that.
2018.
But if you build the stage, I'm hoping that there'll be other events down there, and I don't know how often they would want those streets closed.
If we had additional events, they would be late afternoon evening events, and if we caused an issue with the cleaners or Mr. Graves, obviously, we would not close the street. We would bring significant traffic into the area, but we wouldn't do anything that displeased our neighbors.
Okay, that's all I care about.
that, while you ask that, there is one other question. So during the Seaboard Festival, traffic flowed from the farmer's market there, the Oliver's, up that street and park kind of where, with events going on, do we have a plan for rerouting the parking that used to kind of come through that area?
On the Seaboard Festival, we
I know we
must-
blocked some of that side over there,
We
but
blocked the majority of that street now for Seaboard Festival. That's our egress for the second, third, and first blocks. So we block it now anyway. We open it up when the event begins, and we let people park. As you know, as you've seen Seaboard Festival parking, it's a free-for-all, good
Yeah.
luck, best wishes. They're all the way down to 177.
okay.
And that's not a day we could even possibly conceive closing the street for the whole day.
I got you. I got you.
Okay, any other questions? At this time, if there's anyone here tonight in the public who has comments about this, please come forward at this time and make your comments. Okay, if not, is there a final presentation by the parties? Nothing? Okay. Any final arguments by the parties? If not, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Now to the board, based on the information that Ms. Lindsay has given us, are you comfortable with finding of facts, that the facts are sufficient for this?
I think it's a good idea. Very generous move for them to do this
It is.
property. I would like to just tie the one stipulation to it, that we approve this contingent upon the land actually being donated to the nonprofit, rather than approving it just across the board. And not to say there would or there wouldn't be, but I would just like to tie that stipulation to it. When's it supposed to be donated?
After this,
Come on,
I mean, I don't know how
the lawyers have to draw up the deed and
Okay.
the
But
Seaboard.
you really intend to go ahead with it now, is that correct, once this is approved?
Yes, I don't want to own a stage or personally, the liability issue just, it's not a place I want to go in my life, and they seem to have the means. They've been here for 35 years, or this will be the 35th anyway, and it'll carry on past, you've been there and all of us, hopefully. And the property is I think could make a big difference for Hamlet. But no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think it's a good
Sure,
idea.
Mr. Morphus, is it all right for us to do that, just to make it contingent upon the property being transferred?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, you can put it in the Seaboard's name that it's contingent. I mean, however you want to do it, but.
I mean, I know there's some kind of legal term, and I don't want to grant this
Then something
use
falls
now,
through and we've-
and then something fall through and it doesn't get donated, and then we've made this special use for you and Miss Lindsay.
Okay.
2 points. I mean, one, I think the way you phrased it originally is just fine, that the granting of the special use permit is contingent on the property being transferred to, and I'm going to get the
Seaboard
nonprofit's
Festival
name correct.
Incorporated.
Incorrect.
It's Seaboard Festival Day Incorporated.
So transferred to that organization. Of course, special use permit runs with the land, so if something happened after that and it got transferred again, well,
Yeah, that's understood.
permit's valid, but I think the condition is fine as you proposed it.
I make a motion, just what he said.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that is the final decision. I have a motion to approve this.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Nothing other than, appreciate you all donating that to them. Obviously, I hate it couldn't be on our property right here across the street, but we'll still have a stage close by and something to use Seaboard Festival, so that's good.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Lindsay, if you would return. At this time, I believe we have a presentation by Mr. Bill Matheson tonight regarding a train car called the Jacksonville. If you would like to come up to the podium and give us a full explanation of, we need to know what you got, what you're planning on doing, what kind of needs you're gonna have.
Right. Well, first of all, on behalf of the depot board, we want to really thank you for taking a moment to consider this. It is an exciting opportunity. It is something, to me, as exciting as the Hamlet Depot itself. Just to give you a little bit of a background, some members of the depot board have been reaching out to the museum at Spencer, the North Carolina Transportation Museum. And you gotta know, those folks are excited about Hamlet. They refer people here just like we refer people there, and they're proud of what's here, and they've just really gone out of their way to help us. In the process of that, of our making contact with them, we learned about this car, an ex-Seaboard airline car, business car, named the Jacksonville. A little bit of history about it. It's a Pullman standard car built in 1927. In 1944, Seaboard Airline acquired it and turned it into a business car. It is an exceptional piece of history. I think maybe you have a few photographs of it in your packet. The interiors are largely intact. The china, the original china, silverware, I'm not sure about silverware, glassware is intact. Comes with the car. It's like finding another Hamlet Depot. It really is. And it has ties to this area, which is why we want to try to save it. Currently, the car is in Indiana. It's been there since 1988 or 89. The museum that owns the car is willing to work a deal with us to allow us to acquire the car, us being the Hamlet Depot Museum in conjunction with a historic architect, an architect who specializes in historic restoration. We think Hamlet is the perfect place for this car because there are people alive today who remember the car, who would go on the car when it was in Hamlet. There have been discussions to take the car to Spencer, but we feel like Hamlet is a better place, and Spencer feels like Hamlet is a better place because it is a Seaboard airline car. And of course, Spencer is not Seaboard. So where we are now with it is we have the tentative agreement to acquire the car. We're working out transportation and logistics issues. It has to be actually brought from Indiana to Hamlet. But what we need right now is a home for the car. And what we're here tonight is to ask you to let us make the Hamlet Depot the permanent home for the Jacksonville. Our plans for the car are to restore it inside and out. We would like to be able to do guided tours of the car. And we have kicked around ideas of resurrecting the old butterfly shed that used to be beside the depot. If you remember that long shed, I don't know if y'all remember that, where the trains used to stop. But our next step is to get your approval, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on it and hopefully address any concerns.
Basically, what you're talking about doing is a group, your group, and was it a business or a private citizen?
It's
The other-
private
Private
citizen.
citizen?
Right,
Everything's gonna be handled by y'all. We just need to give you a place to put it.
right.
And there would be an agreement between that group and the city, much like the National Railroad Museum and Hall of Fame
Exactly.
engine and caboose down there.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
Who would own the car?
Initially, it would be owned by Steve Smith. He is a FEMA architect who lives in Camden, South Carolina, right now. He passes through here all the time, going back and forth to New York City. So he's very familiar with this site and agrees that Hamlet is where he wants his car to be. And
Where do you suggest putting it?
That was my.
we've sort of kicked around the idea of behind the visitor center.
One's down there.
The Jacksonville has a
It's gonna be theirs, though.
porch on one end of it. Like you might see presidents, giving a speech on the end of the car. We thought about turning that in toward the depot, set it up parallel with that east-west
Well, there'll have
track.
to be a set of tracks of some kind just set in
Right.
there. It doesn't have to go
Right.
anywhere. Just a
Right,
set
it
of
would be
tracks.
stationary. It would not be roadworthy.
Right. Wouldn't have to run a spur line or anything, because if I'm correct, they feel like it's gonna have to be trucked down here. Is that right?
Possibly have to be put on a flatbed.
Is this going to cost the city of Hamlet anything? As far as getting it here and restoring and?
No. Of course, we are hopeful that the city would like to jump in and help us pursue grants.
Well, yeah, but I just wonder if you're looking for funds from the city to help get the thing here, set it up, get the rails. The railroad would have to set it up, I'm sure, or the rail crew.
Right.
I mean, that's gonna cost.
Right.
I'm just wondering if that's gonna be incurred by y'all, or with our help maybe, or?
We're looking to cover all of that. Of course, we're gonna be going after grant money.
Right.
It's a big project for sure.
Sounds like it'd be pretty expensive, but worthwhile.
Who's gonna
Right.
own it?
Initially, Steve Smith would own it, the architect.
Well, you're not gonna find anybody give you grant money if it's not owned by a nonprofit.
Hmm.
I mean, that's standard for all these
Yeah.
foundations.
So that was gonna be, Mr. Madison, my next question is, once Steve owns that, who is it going to be transferred to have a nonprofit organization owning it?
Well, Steve's idea is that in his will, he would leave it to the Hamlet Depot Board, which is a 501c3.
So the only issue I have with this is, Steve may live 25 more years, and we're gonna have a car down there that he could say, don't get me wrong, perfect idea, very nice car to do, the restoration to. But if Steve is not going to purchase it and donate it to you all, then Steve owns a piece of property on 6,800 citizens' property that who's going to have the final say when it comes down to 5 years from now? We have a car down there sitting next to a multi-million-dollar depot and museums not
Well, that's-
included that we don't own and we can't.
Well, that'd be simple. We just get a contract, just like a wheel.
I think that might
Let
work.
him make a
Yeah.
contractual agreement as to, upon his death, it would automatically be transferred.
That's
to-
fine, but without a 501c3 nonprofit organization, they can't do anything to restore it. So you just
They
got a
can't
car.
get DOT transportation money either.
And they can't get it because it's a private owner.
Excuse me just a
Is
second.
it
Mr. Morpheus.
Something.
And the manager and I were just discussing this. One thing you might do is have some sort of short written agreement that says something like, we're happy to house it here for, pick a finite number of years, 5 years, just making that up. And then after that, the city at any time could ask for the car to be removed. Just something where they have some assurance that there's somewhere for the car to go, but it's not open-ended and based on the kind of thoughts and wishes of a single private individual. So I think we could come up with something that'd work for everybody if that's how council wants to
Well,
proceed.
This, I did searching on the internet, and this thing's listed on Ozark Mountain Railroad,
Right.
a rail car,
That's a broker who
Well,
sells
for
cars.
$27,500. And I had Greg Shelley look at these pictures, and there was like 150 of them. And I don't know a lot about cars, railroad, but Mr. Bowie might, but he came back that to put this thing into,
I can tell you what I know about the ones that move. They make money,
well, but
money in my pocket, but I'm not
But
really
he-
sure
he-
about ones that sitting.
he said it could take $875,000 to $1.25 million to put this thing back into top-notch shape. And,
I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure you guys are going to be able to restore it. That's the biggest thing.
Well,
Even if we can't even touch the inside yet, if we can make the aesthetics outside look good, because it's going to be down there next to our depot.
right.
Ours and not
Right.
ours, but the city and you guys. So that's
Right.
all I want to just kind of make sure we can make happen.
well, in more of the logistics is this thing's an 85-ton car, which is 170,000 pounds. The road limit on the interstates is 80,000 pounds, so it's more than twice as much what the road limit to even put it on the highway.
Seek assistance from railroads that move things like that.
And we've done that through the folks at Spencer. They restore cars at Spencer. And
I can't say from who, but just seek assistance.
right.
from
Our,
people that move.
the estimates we've been given, of course, we're way early in this process. We can't
Right.
really explore this until we know for sure that the car would be welcome here. But our estimates are way below the figures that you were given. And we have been told that the car can be moved on the highway as well. Of course,
You can get
it's a
special
special
permits.
rigging, it's a
It's
special
special.
I know,
rigging
because I've seen them
company.
move.
Well,
Right.
Bill, how about, what you do is,
It's over
you know, we're
600
pretty
miles.
much in agreement with what you're doing here now, but when y'all get some finalized plans of
North Carolina.
what needs to
North
be
Carolina's
done,
limit
and
is-
the issue about
is
how
only
long
4,000
it can be there, and if something came up, we could.
Yeah, like I'm fine with it. I'm like Eddie. Absolutely. It's a beautiful car, and I would love
Yeah,
to see that
yeah.
restored down there. I just want to make sure because it's not about eyes. It's about
Yeah.
the people that live around here. And I just don't.
I don't think we need to vote on anything tonight, we just need to have consensus.
I'd like to see some more help from
Yeah.
Spencer and what they can do to help you to get it here. I mean, those are experienced people up there. But to me, you don't really have a plan, even if we said you could bring it.
So at this point, we'll work with you if you'll just get your plans together and, come back, and we'll tell them that the council will work with
Now,
you.
I'm not sure, but I think Mr. Matheson is asking right now for us to give him some approval
You got it.
so that he can tell the people that he's talking
Got
to,
mine.
Yeah.
we've got this
That's what I
done,
said,
now
yeah.
we can do this and that, but he can't do nothing until we tell him it's okay.
Where are we gonna put it?
Isn't that right?
Behind the depot.
Right. What it is in order to go forward, we're gonna have to start spending some of our money.
And you need to know.
And we
Well, I
don't
would
wanna go down
entertain-
that road
okay.
without some,
I will entertain.
without bringing it to you first. you know.
Just a minute, Mr. Matheson.
Mhm.
I would entertain a motion to authorize them to be able to place that on the property down at the depot.
Can I have one more thing before we do that?
Okay?
I'll give you the motion to get it. I'll make that motion. But do we know what's underground where we're putting it before we put it there?
There are storm sewer lines that run through there. There's a fiber optic line that runs beside the railroad track. We'd have to consult the as-built drawings for the depot and make sure we know what we're up against there.
Surely you don't wanna put this in front of, say, the depot itself, because
No.
you've got the most photographed depot in the
Right.
It's not
country.
going in
It's gonna
front.
be behind.
Be on the backside of the visitor
yeah,
center.
Toward the Y. back-
Toward the Y,
toward
Palmetto
the
Y.
street.
Okay.
We're thinking basically right
Yeah.
behind the visitor center.
Yeah.
And it's,
Where they do the car
give or
show.
take, we're not nailed down to an area. But
Yeah.
But I'm fine with making the motion to get the car here, contingent upon making sure we're not putting it on top of something that's gonna cost a lot of money to get underground.
Right.
Well, even with that, I mean, that, y'all gonna work out the logistics and getting it there. We just
Yeah.
give you permission to put it there.
Right.
I don't see what the problem with
Absolutely.
that be. I
Yeah.
think that would be a great, and thanks for everything y'all do down there.
Yeah.
I guess the only other comment I would have about it is we just wanna make sure that there's some kind of a contract or something in place so it stays open to the public rather than say, okay, we got it, we're gonna put a lock on the door. And we want y'all to have to do that.
Right.
But it would have to be a contract, just like.
Yeah, so we'll, work on that, but we've got a motion on the floor to authorize them to, place the, train car on the property down there. And I've got a second. Any further discussion?
Would we need to add any other verbiage in that before we vote on that?
I think you're fine. I mean, council's reached consensus that any final placements could be subject to some sort of written agreement. And so, short of that, I mean, that included, I think you're fine.
Now, let's make sure we work on that, Mr. Matheson.
Sure.
And,
And
So,
thank you very much.
one
This
one
is-
good thing about it is you're an engineer, you worked on that whole project down there, and we appreciate the fact that you're working on this. Thank you.
Good vote.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed likewise. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Did
you.
everybody vote?
I'm voting no.
You're voting no, all right, I got
If we don't
four,
vote, no, it's a
four,
yes.
one no.
Let that out there.
Sir?
Everybody didn't vote. I just want everybody to know if you don't vote, it's a yes.
So this,
It's
this,
automatic,
this
yeah.
clears the way for Mr. Matheson now to talk to whoever he needs to talk to.
That's right. Yeah.
About putting it down there. We've got permission to go forward.
I look forward to seeing it. That's awesome.
And sincerely, thank you for all y'all do down there. I know y'all do a lot of hard work down there, and I for one want to tell you, I appreciate it.
We all do.
Okay. Next item of business, item number 8, is discussion of the engine compression brakes. Some of us better know it as what's called a Jake brake. But if you live anywhere near 177 or coming in from 74 east, you know when they let up on the accelerator and they have the compression brake on, the amount of racket it makes more than a diesel engine out here on the railroad track. And we know that there are other cities who have passed ordinances banning the use of those engine brakes, and that's what our discussion is for tonight. And we did.
You wanna take it or
by any
you want me to
chance, do
take
we
it?
have any sample?
Sure, and that's what I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor. I think you put it best by saying that the issue is in regards to engine compression brakes, and there have been other cities that have passed ordinances that have outlawed these particular brakes using unless it was in a case of an emergency. So if council is comfortable going forward with that, the attorney and I can work on drafting a policy that reflects that particular proposal.
It's particularly bad coming in from south 177 because they get up there and hit that 35-mile-an-hour zone and let up on it, and it just rattles those houses over there.
Well, with the majority of the area that we're talking about being state roads, would this ordinance supersede the state law?
Inside the
Is
city
there,
limits.
is there a state law?
So I don't know about state law on the roads, and that's a question we're gonna look at, but as
Oh.
far as Mr. Blanton was going, you can absolutely regulate noise, and I think that's really the issue.
Inside the
So
city
it's,
limits,
it's
yeah.
not having the brakes on the roads, but, it's something we wanna make sure there's not something that preempts us from regulating that.
That's the only thing I would
Yep.
like to check on
And-
first.
And if council's on board, you could direct us to come up with, draft language to bring back the next meeting and, look at that as well. And if there's a flag, we'll let you know.
So once you have the ordinance, I mean,
Police department can enforce it.
The police department can enforce it, and the money, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but the money from that ticket, if I read this correctly, comes to the city.
I will need to go back
Portion-
and
a
look at our
portion of that.
ordinance. And this will sound really vapid, and I apologize, but I've dealt with this issue recently in several towns that I work for, and the question whether the money comes to the town or not centers on whether any of the enforcement language allows something to be charged as a misdemeanor. Because if you can charge something in your code of ordinance as a misdemeanor,
It would be an
Then-
infraction, wouldn't it?
well, infraction's a little different, but it's basically any kind of criminal charge. Then the clear proceeds are supposed to go to the school system. And so what some towns have done is they've made things like public nuisances and possibly, well, not really public nuisances, only enforceable through civil penalties because they want to keep the money themselves. And I don't recall looking at that for Hamlet, and so if I have, and I've already given y'all an answer, I apologize, but I can look at that as well, Mr. Bowie.
Okay. And the second part, the reason I asked this to go on the agenda as well is sometime back, we made a resolution to the state to reduce the speed just past that area where it goes 45. It used to be 55, and we moved the 55 all the way up to our city limit sign. And so I am wanting to ask council if we can, because when you come off of Batley Dairy Road coming on to 177 there, you got the trucks coming around that curve barreling in the city of Hamlet. It's just turning to 35, so they're still running about 50, 55 coming through there. If we can create or ask another resolution, put together one to send to the state requesting the 35 be pushed back a little further to hopefully slow traffic down somewhat before it gets into Poplar Avenue and Walnut right in that area. Because if you're coming out of those neighborhoods, it's still that's where it turns 35, but you still have people flying into the city, and that's just some dangerous areas. Yeah, if we can have the 35 pushed back further, maybe even back to where the church is, to go ahead and slow them down right there before coming into the residential or more residential area. Just a food for thought. Been a couple people talk about it. I've seen it, and they come in, and that's why you have issues with the engine braking, is because they're trying to slow down coming. They realize the speed's not dropping to 35 just because you're coming into residential area. So
If that's
Good
the
point. Yes.
Can't hurt to make the request. I doubt they'll do it though.
Yeah.
We made
Yeah.
a request not
It's
long
not-
ago from Batley Dairy Road to drop that from 45 to 35, and
Yeah, it's
And they-
because of
they
the
come out there and
area.
did their little-
Yeah.
24-hour survey, and they
Yep.
didn't change it. But it's a good idea to
just
try.
to see if we can,
It.
just back it up, even if it's not but 100 yards. Just back it up, slow them down a little bit more before
I'll
they
be
get
glad
right
to
to that
inquire to
street.
the DOT and report
Okay.
back to council.
Okay.
Mr. Brooke.
Thank you. Item number 9, discussion of the funding remaining balance for the South Hamlet playground equipment.
In regards to,
Discussion.
sure, in regards to the South Hamlet Playground, Mr. Mayor, in the budget, we have $5,000 for playground equipment that has allocated. The total bill for this project is around $22,000. We're about $15,000 short, around about, for the particular funds that are needed. So I wanted to gauge council's interest on whether or not you are interested in proceeding forward with a fund balance appropriation to make a budget amendment to cover the remaining part of the contract for the playground equipment. The playground equipment is slated to be delivered soon. I was originally told October 11th. I've tried to confirm that date, and it's still up in the air, but it's soon. And upon the receipt of the playground equipment, it will have to be paid for. So I am looking for council's authorization to pull that money to pay for the South Hamlet Playground upon installation and delivery.
Well, I've got an idea. Hadn't we set aside like $15,000 for the signs coming into Hamlet in the budget for this year?
For new entrance sign, the new entrance signs, there is it's 15, we have, I think we do have a $15,000.
I would think, or I would make a motion, if it needs to be a motion, that we take that $15,000 from the, putting it on the signs, entrance signs, put that money toward the park equipment, and then worry about the signs next year, at the next budget.
Are we that broke?
Well, I don't know whether that broken up. It's not necessary to even mess with the signs right now. I mean, this is something that's come up. We can do it. Put the money over into the playground equipment and worry about the signs next year.
So to be clear, Mr. Martin, you were making this motion.
I'm making a
I understand
motion.
correctly that we move $15,000 from streets and highway fund into the general fund to cover the South Hamlet Park.
When we say streets and highways, I'm specifically referring to entrance signs into Hamlet, where we've already got entrance signs. They are fine, they're okay. I mean, they might need some update or maybe even replaced, but that's not necessary right now. We can do that later. Take that money, put it over there on the playground equipment, and it settles the issue. We don't have to worry about where the money's coming from. There's a way right there. And while we're talking about the funds and the playground and the equipment, I would like that we will go ahead and order the benches and stuff that goes around the park, so the parents and grandparents have a place to sit when they carry the children down there to swing or play on the equipment and stuff. Go ahead and order that while, take that money, put it over there. We're probably gonna have enough. We already got 5. Put that toward that and add a little bit more and get the equipment, or, you know, the seats and stuff, the benches, whatever you want to call it, and go ahead and get it done.
Didn't we just make $65,000 off of selling surplus equipment?
We did, yes, Mr. Lindsay.
Can't we just use?
Well, my motion is to take the money, the $15,000 for the signs, put it over on the equipment. That's my motion. I don't care about the other money, what we made in surplus. I don't care about all that. My motion is to take the $15,000, put it over there, and pay for the playground equipment and get it over with.
What was the total
Worry about it later.
amendment of the
This
budget
is-
that needed?
We'll need about,
$10,878.
it'll be about $15,000.
Where did
We-
excuse me, I've got 10,878 on your notes here.
That would be the remaining balance. Half of it's been paid. We had to pay half prior to it
Okay.
being,
All right.
prior to the order being placed.
So we're just looking for the balance, and there's a simple
All
way
right,
to do it.
first off, right now, we have got a motion, Mr. Martin, to take the $15,000 from the signs and put it forward toward the playground equipment. We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. There was
If we-
some discussion, I think at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, about checking into the different kind of signs.
Yeah, that's still on.
Switching from the one that we've currently got, the metal sign with the fence post around it or whatever, to more like what they've got on, out there on the bypass in Rockingham. I think that's gonna take some time anyway, so I mean, I think that what he said makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question, though. If you go this route, can we revisit this at the mid,
Yeah, I mean, and like
Oh,
he
yeah.
says, you got money, you know, that The money's there, it's just a matter of how we're gonna do it.
I would love to see, sign like the entrance to, the one
Laurinburg.
they have,
Oh,
74
okay.
bypass. those
74
are really
bypass
nice.
and-
Laurinburg or Laurel Hill.
And there's one in,
That's real nice.
And just start looking at those at each entrance.
and put that on the agenda for the mid-year budget
Yeah,
discussions
that's what
in
I'm saying.
January, whenever we have them.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion?
I did, I second it.
Okay, I've got a second. Any further discussion on that particular motion?
Benches, he said benches, are they going
Yeah,
in?
we need to do that probably as separate from what we're discussing right here.
Okay.
Would I be right on that?
I think
this
Mr.
motion
Marshall.
Well, my
right now
motion
is
was to
to
go ahead
move
and
money.
include, my
Right.
motion was to
Motion.
include that.
Sir?
My motion was to include the benches. That can't
Okay,
be
do we
much.
know how much that's gonna
You'd
cost?
have there'd be,
About $400 apiece.
Well, ain't,
And how many?
well, at least two.
Okay,
you'd have a balance of 412173 from what we currently owe. So the balance could buy benches.
so we definitely need the benches. All right, so I got a motion, I got a second, and, that's to take the 15,000 from the signage and put it over there. Plus, we want to add, 2 benches at $400 each. Is that your
Well,
motion?
assuming it's that much, I don't.
Okay,
Maybe it's that
would
much.
you amend your second on that also?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
could you look at the other parks that we've recently redone? And, I mean, there may be 3 benches, there may be
Right.
4,
I'll be glad to do that, but if there isn't enough money there in the
Yeah.
account, we'll have to bring it back to council in
Yeah.
November to look to revisit the issue
For benches?
for benches.
okay.
Because we paid 10,000, 5,000 of that would be what we had budgeted. So there's around a $15,000 balance. I don't know
Okay, I
right
got you.
off the exact numbers, but it's going to be running close.
I got you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this issue? If not, I'd ask for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed likewise. I have to be careful and not get too far ahead of our city clerk. Thank you, council. At this time, we need to have a discussion of the Hamlet Christmas Parade as to where we're going with it and what is happening with it. And, council, we're open to discussion at this time with your suggestions and that sort of thing.
I mean, I'll just start us off. I mean, it's just my 2 cents. The parade has been run very well over the many years that it has been in existence. And probably erroneously, a lot of people think that the city puts the parade on, and that's not so. For years, the Hamlet Rotary Club did a fine job of putting that parade on. Several years back, and I'm not sure when, maybe you could help me with that, they actually were low on their enrollment and just didn't have enough people to actually logistically make it work. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it went from the Rotary to the Downtown Business Association. And I don't know how long they did it, but they did it for some period of time. And you may even know.
But, well, Kim took it over, about 3 years, this will be the 4th that she's,
Do we know why they quit? Or why
they just said they want to get out of, we don't know what they're doing, really, I don't think, do you? The HBDA crowd,
Well,
they wanted to get out of whatever, the entertainment business, they didn't want to do.
well, it moved from that to, who's actually doing it? Is it the Friends of Hamlet?
Yeah, we had no other place.
Right, and like I said, everybody that's been involved in it has done a really good job with it. And now we got a letter from Ms. Lindsay saying that she did not want to be in charge of it anymore. For my part, I would love to see the city go ahead and step in and take that over. I mean, we've got any number of people that could do that. Have no idea what kind of revenue it brings in.
It's not a big money
The
maker,
revenue's not the point.
but it is.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, it would be something.
You make money, a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta make some money. I mean, I don't know how much, but I mean,
My
have to make
impression,
some money.
my impression is that we need to have a city committee.
well, and the reason I say I would like the city to do
Yeah.
it is to get stability in that
Good call.
Christmas parade.
Yes.
Because you're talking about something that went forever and ever and was perfect, and now
Yeah.
over, 6 years, it's been from here to here to here. And that's not
Last 2
knocking
years have been
anyone.
very good.
It's not knocking any one group. Everybody's done a great job. But for moving forward and for the the security of the parade to be able to keep putting the parade on.
Most communities, the parades are done by the cities.
I mean, I would like to see the
Well,
city do that.
Don't
We-
typically have groups putting on parades. The Hamlet Rotary, I've spent over 20 years being involved, volunteering on the parade. So I'm very familiar with it.
Willing to help everywhere with the transition. Last year, we sold 18 professional floats. We've already sold or committed this year already 12. So I mean, and the funds we would just turn over to the city. So there was, but we've already gotten that many on the books. The little floats, we'll call them, they sort of come in at the last 2-3 weeks. We've got forms already that we've used in the past that I'm willing to, help change over to the city. The only thing the city really will end up doing is collecting money like they would for a the sports event down at the city hall.
But we've got to have a plan, we've got to have a committee, and this is October, so we got to do something.
And again, we're willing, the people that have been helping, that we've been helped by a lot of the Rotary still hangs, they enjoy doing it. It's just, Mr. McQueen is correct, it needs the stability of the city to come in and hold it up, the backbone of it. But as far as I know, most of the volunteers are still willing at least to hang, and help this year possibly to make the transition and might stay on forever as they've been doing. But
Well, like I say, we need to have a committee, we need to have somebody that's over that committee, and let them go with it.
I mean, it would be
Your
Great.
suggestions would be the best right now, because you've worked this thing.
Well, I think you have a downtown coordinator, and she needs to be the one putting Hamlet out there. She should be the spokesperson doing our marketing, doing our events, and she should be sitting in on these things, and she should be over this, just like she should be over 4th of July, old-fashioned Christmas. Everything that goes on should go through her.
this will be easy. We've already, Miss North Carolina's already committed for this year. The 82nd Airborne Band is already committed for this year. I guess you could, if you didn't want some of these things, you could call them up and say no. It's still early enough. But
Yeah, how about then if we have you and downtown coordinator get together, and then she can get with some of these people who've been doing it, and maybe get a committee formed, since if Ms. Lindsay would work with them and get this thing on board, it'd be appreciated.
I think it'll take the city manager in this, just for at least the first
Yeah.
year. To
I think
be
this
What do you think, council?
I think this ought to be a mayor's appointment, and I think he ought to appoint the first lady.
I don't think so.
I think we have a downtown coordinator.
Thank you, Mr. Martin, I
that can
appreciate
work
that.
with, that can
You
work
need to
with
talk
the
to her.
board. I mean, you're tied up with enough stuff. We have a downtown coordinator.
That's right, and
They can take
get
care
her
of
to go ahead and form a committee, and if Ms. Lindsay will work with her and some of these other ladies that have done it.
That's fine.
She would do a great job at getting it put together, I have no doubt.
Ms. Lindsay, would you help? Okay, thank you.
Could I just say, like,
Yes, sir.
one more thing? Since we're in October, so what do we got, 6 weeks?
Roughly.
And I'm just looking at the logistics of this. There's already been checks sent in to whatever the organization is that's doing it now. And that would be
Friends
Friends
of
of Hamlet.
And
They're gonna
Would
transfer
it
the
be
funds.
something that this year you finish out the parade with the assistance of the city and let the city have the opportunity to get in place a plan to start, hit the ground running December or whatever after the parade for next year?
Well, part of the logistics problem is we don't,
And
when
I'm
we,
looking at the money that's
when-
already been paid in and things like that.
we can write the check direct from Friends of Hamlet for the X amount of dollars per float and everything and balance that out. Part of also our problem was we had an established business in place a brick and mortar place for people to go, and we don't have that anymore. And that's part of our problem, is that we were relying on BB&T to accept some, and Bobby's Furniture
Or
and,
they could come into City Hall and do the same thing, I mean.
well,
that
City
would
Hall
be
won't,
good, yeah.
City Hall they wouldn't take cash payment for us.
No.
They'll
But-
take it
but
for
the
you,
city
but
can
they
do-
won't
that's what
take
we're
it for
saying.
us.
If we'll get that transferred over to
Well,
the city.
Jonathan and Wendy had a good idea, let the downtown coordinator get involved.
Yeah.
But we're staying with it. We're,
I mean, I'm just looking at,
go that way and
I'm just
forget
looking at the checks that's already been written. Have the downtown coordinator and the city start the process. Just looking at the continuity of the whole deal. I
Well-
mean, you're looking at, I mean, this isn't just something you can do in
How about,
4 weeks.
how about, well,
Does
we,
that make sense?
we did it the first time in 5 weeks. It got dumped to the HBDA, on Kim, and we had 5 weeks to the first parade. But,
We got plenty of time.
but I don't see a time problem, but I think this initial, setup, if Jonathan would be involved at least for the first couple meetings to help sort of guide and the legal
We need to go ahead
aspect.
and get this established. Yeah, we do.
I mean, I would like to, I would
And,
like to
and, but
see-
Stephanie
That
take
way
it
they
over.
can-
I-
That's
I'm
right,
just-
that way people can pay money to the city, if they got a place they can come pay it, and,
But I mean, we've got the documentation, there's only like 5 paid floats, and we can just write the city the check for those 5 floats, and we're even Steven.
Okay.
So we hadn't gotten the $25 football team floats at this time, so all those little bitty checks hadn't come in yet. And we've pulled the application back off of the Facebook, already a Facebook page for it that I can turn it over to Stephanie to do. And the forms, I've even already done the forms showing the City of Hamlet, and we can get them back out there the first of this
We
week.
can
Excuse
do
me
that,
just a
no
minute.
problem.
Hold just a minute.
Stephanie
Hold.
have it. Let's go.
hold just a minute.
Mr. Lindsay, just a point of information, you have 12 floats that there are commitments for, but there's only been 5 that have been paid for?
I think
that
5, she's raising her hand, 5.
But 12 commitments?
But a lot of these professional floats are sponsored by the same people every year. It's just going out and beating on their door to go collect the check.
Well, how about getting together this week, y'all, and get the ball rolling and work on getting the funds transferred to the city? And whatever committee members we need to approve next month, they need to put applications in.
And I thank council for, if this goes through for them.
Is everybody good with that? It doesn't,
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
okay. I don't see anything needed but a consensus. Do you, Mr. Morphus? Okay,
No, I think that's fine, sir.
okay. Thank you. Item number 11, we deleted. Item number 12 is appointment to the Hamlet ABC Board. Find that application.
Wendy, you got a recommendation?
Miss, Dot Fisher Bynum
Oh, okay.
being reappointed is my understanding.
All right, is that your
I don't know that
recommendation?
there was any-
Is that your
I didn't-
motion?
There wasn't anything in the packet. I
I
don't
didn't
know.
have anything in
I
the
know.
packet,
And I
so
put
I
the
have
other
no idea.
name, because I didn't put any applications, because I put that the current one who is expiring, that she wishes to be reappointed, and then there's one other who you all know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Miss Bynum,
I have no idea.
is Miss Bynum on there now?
She was?
Yes.
She wants to stay on there?
Who the other person, I don't know.
You didn't get your agenda note?
I didn't see it. I looked.
I don't know anything about it. I thought Wendy would know.
Oh, it's on there, I'm sorry.
She's on the board, so
It's
I
on
figured.
there.
We'll
Item
take
number
your
12.
motion on it.
Item number 12 on the agenda note states that Ms. Dot Bynum's term on the ABC Board expires October 15th, 2017. Ms. Bynum has served 1.5 terms on the board, and she has expressed an interest in serving another term. Linda Bayless has also submitted an application with an interest to serve on this board. This appointment is a 3-year term, and we're looking for an appointment from council for the Hamlet ABC Board.
Okay.
Council, I'll take your motion.
Make a motion, we appoint Miss Bynum back to the board.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Very good. Item number 13 is appointment to the Hamlet Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I have a letter before me at this time that says, Dear Mayor Bayless, Mr. Oz Queen's term as Commissioner on the Hamlet Housing Authority Board of Commissioners is due to expire on September of 2017. Mr. Queen has expressed an desire to be reappointed to the board to serve another 5-year term, and they recommend that.
So move, reappoint Oz Queen to the board.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Very good, thank you. Next item of business is adoption of a resolution number 2017-08, surplus equipment. And basically, we have items here that are put up for public auction, and we do that on,
We've done that online through 2 stages thus
Right.
far, Mr. Mayor, and
and
as
what's the
Mr.
name of the
Lindsay.
corporation that does that? Gov
Deals,
Deals?
Gov Deals of America.
Gov Deals of America.
And like Mr. Lindsay
And you
stated, the
have
first 2
attached
stages.
yeah, you have attached to that a list of items. Do you have that up there where they can see it? Okay.
And we've done very well through the first 2 stages. As Mr. Lindsay said, we've yielded about $65,000
proved
throughout
well
the first
for
2
us.
stages.
Council, what are your wishes on this?
So move to adopt the resolution.
Okay. Got a motion to adopt resolution surplus property? Have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Lindsay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed likewise. Thank you. Item number 15 is adoption of tax releases. You have that before you, council.
I have one.
Yes.
My cousin's on here, my nephew's on here. Do I need to recuse myself from?
No.
It's $13.01.
I think we probably just allow Mr. Lindsay.
Okay, just checking. I don't.
He might not appreciate it if you opposed it.
It's just if
Okay.
you have a conflict, it's not a.
Yeah, I know. This is not a conflict item. All right, what are your wishes on these tax releases, council?
So move to approve.
Have a motion to approve?
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed likewise. Also, I have before me at this time a mayoral proclamation for Veterans Day. Whereas the veterans of our community served their country during peace and war and kept our democracy safe, and whereas November the 11th is designated and set aside to honor all those who fought, died, and became disabled while defending this nation, and whereas it is fitting that a period of time be set aside to honor and show respect for these great men and women. Now, therefore, I, Bill Bayless, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Hamlet, do hereby urge all citizens in our community to reflect on the democratic freedom and recognize the great contribution that veterans have made possible for each of us by paying tribute on November the 11th of 2017. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the city of Hamlet. Okay, next item of business is city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few items for council and the community this month. The fair is in town and will be running through this Saturday, October 14th. The Seaboard Festival will also be at the end of the month, the last Saturday, October 28th, and we certainly invite everyone to come out and enjoy both of those events. Also, next week, the city will have its 2nd annual Ghost Tour down at the Museum and Depot, and there are still tickets available for that for anyone that is interested. Also, at the end of this month, Marlene Swanson and Benny Billingsley will be retiring from the city of Hamlet. Both of those individuals have served a long time with the city, and we certainly do appreciate all of their years of service and their dedication and loyalty to the city of Hamlet. For Veterans Day, the city will be closed the Friday prior. That will be November the 10th. All city buildings will be closed. There will be no delay in residential garbage pickup for that holiday. The city has received word that the Hamlet Hospital, First Health of Hamlet, will be closing in November, and something wanted to make the community aware of. And also, I want to thank Mr. Elwanger, Mr. Hill, and Mr. Matheson for being here tonight on behalf of the Hamlet Depot Board. We certainly do appreciate your willingness to come speak to us and the information that you presented to us here tonight. And lastly, just as a point of information, in November, for council's consideration, will be what will be a necessary budget amendment for a new water line on Lillian's Lane. We are looking at about a $56,000 budget amendment. I wanted to bring that to council as a point of information and for your consideration that we'll be deliberating on in November.
And that work's been completed already, am I correct?
No,
Or
it hasn't.
They just did repair work out there?
Right. We've done several repairs throughout this year. It's been a
Okay.
continued problem, and we're looking at replacing that entire line, again, probably to the tune of $56,000.
That's gonna be an ongoing project all over town.
Right. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
Council, any questions for
Who
me?
was the second employee you said retired?
Marlene Swanson and Benny Billingsley.
Oh, Benny,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to comments, council. Mr. Lindsay?
The hospital, personal, and it's gonna hurt us, 1915, just for everybody's information, was when it opened, but, so, nothing we can do about it. Hopefully something will come in there. I don't know, it's probably not the right place, it's not a big issue. The Terrell Martin, Crime Stoppers, I don't know if sometime maybe we'd look at increasing the donation to the
Well,
city.
We'll put that on for,
Oh.
budget meeting.
Trying to raise that up a little bit. Maybe it'll bring somebody that, out to solve that murder. Had the pleasure of going to the depot meeting. I hope to make more. Didn't mean to sound discouraged with doing your project. I think it's great. I'm concerned with a lot of pipes, and I know there's a sewer line out there that we really need to check on, but, and you had another concern of the, train, display that's down in the basement, that y'all were wanting to try to get that out of there. This thing's been there, was supposedly, I thought was gonna leave in June, was what we were told. And it's been there like 3 years, and they had concerns that I guess they want the space, they want it out. They couldn't find anybody for a home for it, is that right? So can we get some movement for them to?
Sure. And this is Mrs. Packer's trains that you're referring to, correct?
I
Janet
did.
Packer's trains. She was given official notice in the spring that the trains need to be removed. She came down to the depot and she spoke with the curator, and the curator indicated to her that she had an interest in some of the trains, so we allowed Ms. Packer to have some time to work with Stephanie in order to decide what Stephanie wanted to keep and what Mrs. Packer wanted to get rid of. I know there are other people that have made or have indicated an interest, but I will certainly renew the need for these trains to be moved as soon as possible from Ms. Packer.
There was a question from an employee, they're getting paid a day late or something? Was there?
There was. Columbus Day was yesterday, so the banks were closed, but employees, it should be in their checking account tonight,
Okay.
or in the morning, early in the morning, by tomorrow at the latest. At midnight.
That's all I have.
Probably, when we have a holiday come up like that, we need to put that check in the bank before that. That's
Sure.
what the state does. State always puts
Okay.
it in the last working day. So the bank messed up.
And that's usually our practice. No,
Okay,
it was
bank
on
messed
our
up.
end. We didn't realize that
Okay,
Columbus Day was this Monday. But that is usually our practice, that it is
Yeah.
done the Friday before.
okay, thank you. Mr. Lindsay, anything else? Okay, Mr. McQueen.
Yeah, just reiterate what Mr. Lindsay said about the hospital. It was sort of like the perfect storm for Hamlet. It was owned by a private for-profit group, got sold to a nonprofit outfit, and then got shut down. So tax revenue gone. Now it was one of our bigger sewer and water customers as well, so that's another loss there as well. Like to see the board at some point come together and send the First Health a letter, just telling them that we would really hope that they push forward. We're trying to get somebody in that building to do something with it, try to recoup some of what we lost. I would also like to see us look at, I've had several people disappointed. They go down there to the depot and it's closed on Mondays. I would like for us to look at revisiting opening opening the depot back on Mondays. That's just something that we need to look at, in my opinion. I mean, it's not nothing I want to talk about now, just something that we can actually possibly look at starting maybe the first of the year, if council would approve that. Then also, I just want to make one other statement. There's been a couple of times over the past couple of weeks that I received phone calls from one of our media outlets with information from anonymous sources, that information was come from communication between council members. I think it's very, I think it's wrong and unprofessional for us to be sharing information with family and friends, and then anonymous calls being made to the media outlet. I talked to the city manager. I know there was a couple of things that was in some of the articles that were not exactly factual in nature, and really, I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I'd like to ask everybody to go out and support the fair. It's in town this week. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Martin?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Ms. Maskey? Okay. Mr. Bowie?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a few things. I've always been one to kind of share what's in my mind. I don't really hold it back, so I'm just going to just be honest and blunt here in what I have to say. I don't want anybody to ever look at things that's voted for by this board. I can't say this board, but I can tell you, me personally, I could care less about a second term, third term, fourth term. I was voted in for this term. I'm going to vote for what I feel is right for the citizens, not for me, not for my friends, not for my family, not for staff, not for the board, just the people of this city. And I'll never be able to vote for something or anything that's going to make everyone happy. And as you all know, as just being alive in general, you don't ever make everyone happy. I'm going to try to make the best decision I can while I'm up here. So the comments that I've seen on social media, just been made out in the public about, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the park down at South Hamlet. I'm not up for re-election, and I voted for the park. And if I need to make the call to do something tomorrow to vote for something down there again, I'll certainly ask for a special meeting, and I'll do it again. Because it's for kids, and if anyone has an issue or comments to make concerning that, don't put it on social media. Call down here and leave your contact information with our city manager, and I'll call you about it. This is not pointed at any one individual, but this is something I feel, and I'm tired of hearing it. I vote for what I think is right for the citizens of Hamlet. And if anyone ever feels like that's wrong, you have the opportunity to get in the box the next time and do not check my name. But while I'm here, I'm worried about this term and this term only. Some people may take this as harsh. It's not meant to be harsh. It's a fact. And while I got the mic, I want to talk about a couple of things I've read lately that I'm really disappointed in by one of our newspapers, being I wasn't available for comment, which I'll never be available for comment because I come up here and work as a board, and so that's where I'll be, is up here with the board. We have a mayor for any comment that needs to be made, and we have a city manager that can be reached out to. Twice, my name has been dropped in stating that I had comments concerning Councilman Lindsay and his wife with an interference of a grant for the city. Twice, it is bull. I have not made one comment about the Lindsays concerning interference with grant at all, any grants. My comment in my email was strictly, and it was written in the paper. The comment was made that it was an understanding that a citizen had interference with the grant, in stating that we had already made the comment, we were going to pay for it regardless. And that's exactly what we said. So That is what it is. Then there's been some recent comments about a city council member or members going to get information concerning candidates that's running for election and them paying their taxes. Well, we don't need to look up anything or ask anybody to run any errands for us. Tax release information it's in the newspaper. You can look it up. It's public record. So no council members running errands and trying to find out about candidates. And so as far as that is concerned with the articles and stuff written and questioned, I wanted to clear that up, because if you have the right to put it in your paper, I have the right to get up here and clear my name. The other thing, no candidate has the right to send any email up here to our city manager and telling him what to do when it comes to employees. If employees wish to put a sign in their yard, they are given that right and can do it. The only thing we ask and we will enforce is you doing any kind of political deeds, favors, whatever you want to call it, while you are on the city's dime. Personally, I don't really care if you put whoever sign or whatever. That is your right as a citizen. I'm never going to ask or request that that be taken away from anyone, because that's your right. So please continue to exhaust your right as a citizen, but do not exhaust your right while you're on the city's dime. That's the only thing I ask. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care who you vote for. This board's changed numerous times, and there's been numerous times that we have people pushing other people, always thinking that they're going to get ahead with yes votes. Well, I'm sorry, but I've made a comment before. You'll never get 5 yes votes on this board, because this board, I've always seen, we come in here, and yes, we may lay it out in the newspaper and people think we look foolish, but we truly sit up here and discuss it. It's not behind a closed door. That's why you see the spats and the arguments. This is a passion, people. It's a passion for what people feel they believe in that's right for their citizens. That's what we're doing. It's not an argument. Yes, it is, but it's not. It's a passion. So we may get up here and argue things out, but it is a passion for what we believe. We're not sitting back there in that room making it up and coming out here and with smiles and making it everybody yes. So with that, I am going to clear that up and move on to a happy thought, if you would, and I'll run into them. But for Marlene and Benny, hey, thank them for their time here with the city. I think it's excellent that we have people that come, stay that long, and retire, rather than just a constant rotating door. So I'll catch up with them and thank them personally on behalf of myself. But please, extend the well wishes for them and their future endeavors, just in case I don't see them before they retire. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I would just kind of like to reiterate, I was sitting here thinking about the things that he was talking about. Being on city council is a hard job. Maybe it doesn't look like it, but it is, and there's a lot of decisions. And as you can see, that we always entertain discussion up here on anything. Decisions are not made behind closed doors. If you see us go into a closed session, it's because we've either got a contract or we've got a personnel issue. And we do try to do the best. We're 6 people sitting up here, and we're representing close to 7,000 people in this town, and we're trying our best to do what's right and to spend the city's money. We've got issues now that we're going to have to look at over the next several years regarding our infrastructure with our water and sewer. And it's going to be quite a bit of money involved in it. So we're going to have to start looking 25 years down the road, because somebody else is going to have to deal with decisions that we're making now. But the city council, regardless of who's up here, they try hard, they work hard, and we just throw it all out there. We're not like some other councils. We don't really know what's going to come up. And I do like the healthy conversation that goes on. I do want to wish everyone goodwill. I wish that they would come down to the fair this week. There's been a lot of work gone into it. I think it's the best fair we've had in years. And, of course, the Seaboard Festival is coming up. It's always good, and we do recommend that everybody go and visit with that. One other item that I have that I really feel about is Mr. Bert Unger passed away this past week. And I had known Bert for many, many years. He was a friend. I worked with him when he was with the newspaper, giving him reports on vehicle collisions and that sort of thing. I also had the opportunity to work with him on city council, and he was very, very informed about government, and he taught me a lot. And he's truly going to be missed, and I just wanted the city to note the fact of his passing. And that is all I have at this time, and council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Oh,
Oh, yes, sir. Sir? No, Well, we'll work on that for next month. Okay. All right, I got a motion to adjourn. I need a second.
or I made the motion.
Okay, I got a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Thank you.